Hello everybody, it's Foo here, and I'm here today with my friend John, aka Pokemon, to talk about some overlooked Pokemon, my favorite topic, and how they have got some huge buffs from data received from Pokemon Home. So Pokemon Home came out, and we now know what moves these Pokemon will learn by TMs and TRs. They're not actually in Pokemon Sword and Shield at the moment, and they have no way of learning these moves currently, but when they go into the games, when we get them in the next games, hopefully they'll learn all of these moves and be much better for it. So these are some really cool Pokemon. Can't wait to go through them all with you. But first of all, we're also doing a video on John's channel, aren't we?
Yes, we are, and we are looking at the opposite side of things and the incredibly strong Pokemon that are only going to get even stronger with all these new moves they get with Pokemon Home. Hopefully we do see them in future games with these. We already know a lot of legendaries should be in the DLC, so that's very exciting for some, very scary for some, but that's enough talk of those scary mons. Sam, let's get into some very amazing overlooked mons.
Right, so the first one I thought we'd start with a good one, which is Poliwrath. Poliwrath has always been kind of underwhelming. It's a really bulky Pokemon, but it just doesn't have much offensive prowess until now. So Poliwrath has like a base 95 attack stat, and you need high power moves to use for that attack stat to do anything. And Brick Break was like its most powerful fighting type move in Let's Go. It did actually get a superpower, but that drops your attack and your defense. But Poliwrath is able to learn close combat from the data that we've received through Home. So hopefully in the next game it's in, Poliwrath will have close combat. That will be amazing. It will hit so much harder, and you can run much more offensive Poliwrath sets, especially seeing as though Poliwrath does get the Swift Swim ability. It will be a much better Swift Swim sweeper with close combat. You also see it getting Drain Punch, which is again amazing because this Pokemon can be really bulky. It's a great user of the Assault Vest, or it could be like a bulky Rest Talks bulk up set, something like that. It's really nice. Water Absorb ability means it's a really good switch on Scalds. And then Drain Punch will be fantastic for these sets because it does do good damage and it gives you passive recovery, which is amazing. Both of those attacks are like transformative for Poliwrath because it didn't have good physical fighting type stab before these. On top of that, it does get Liquidation, which is slightly more powerful than its Waterfall that it already has, and then it does get Darkest Lariat too, which is a nice dark type attack. Dark type attacks are always good for fighting types to have just to cover for those ghost types. So all in all, Poliwrath gets tons of new moves that are really going to change it a lot. You can have very offensive Poliwrath sets. You can have like Choice Band in the Rain, or you can have bulk up Drain Punch sets, or maybe Assault Vest sets with the Drain Punch as well. This Pokemon, I really do think is going to be a ton better, and that's so nice to see because it deserves the love. Way back from Gen 1, the next game it's going to be in is probably going to be its best game yet.
The next mon we're going to look at doesn't have as many new moves as Poliwrath, unfortunately, but Cradily is finally gaining access to Power Whip, and this is a game changer for this Pokemon. Now, Cradily does have an 81 attack stat, which is pretty average, but it also only has an 81 special attack stat, and usually when you see Cradily, it's going to be running, one attacking set if it's just a defensive Pokemon or even a setup Pokemon, and whether that's going to be Giga Drain, or if it's a curse set, usually it's Seed Bombs, sometimes you see some Rock Stab, but they're never powerful moves to go along with its pretty lackluster attack stats. Power Whip is a 120 base power, which will be Stab Grass move for Cradily, which is really nice. Not only can you have it on its offensive sets, which are really annoying to go against as this Pokemon is decently bulky. It has access to recover, it's able to get hazards up. It's not an easy mon to get away, especially with its Suction Cup ability, which you can't Whirlwind, it can't Roar. I used to see it all the time in past generations in the sand, setting up in my face, and that's another thing it can now do. Throw a curse on this thing, set up as many times as you want, and now you have a very scary Power Whip coming your way, which is much different than just a regular old Seed Bomb.
So moving on from one underrated rock type to another, and we are going to be looking at Lycanroc. So the different Lycanroc forms are all kind of varyingly not very good. Dusk form is much better because it does have the Tough Claws ability and is still really fast. But all of these forms now get some really good moves, really helpful ones. They get Play Rough and Psychic Fangs, which are both great for taking on fighting types, which obviously are super effective against a rock type. So you can definitely take them on a lot better with those two moves, and it's really good coverage to add. And then they also get close combat, which is obviously a very powerful fighting type move and a great one to add to the roster. But also, it's really good at taking on steel types, which are another type that would resist their rock stab. What's great about all of these moves is that they are all contact moves, so that Lycan Rock Dusk form will get the Tough Claws boost on all of them, and they are just going to be so much more powerful with these coverage options. They are going to be really good. Another great thing about close combat is obviously if you Dynamax a Lycan Rock, it would then get Max Knuckle, and you can boost your attack while attacking the opponent. So that's all really good. It's very good news for Lycan Rock, which is neat because it's only been one generation and already they're kind of getting forgotten, and I think that these moves will hopefully boost their appeal.
Next up, we're going to be looking at a few Pokemon that are now going to gain access to Body Press, and then look a little bit more in depth on one of them that really stands out, but we didn't want to overlook any of these, because first off, Aggron getting Body Press is so freaking cool. Aggron has a 180 defensive base stat, but this is really going to be the first time it can truly use that incredible defensive stat, beyond the times when it had a Mega, and I think it's going to be really cool that Body Press can just be another, coverage move for it. Can be something on a more defensive set. It still will be scary. It's just more, coverage, which is always nice. Another Pokemon that is gaining access to Body Press is Swampert. And the reason this is significant is it's also gaining access to Bulk Up, which is really, really cool. Swampert has always been a really solid Pokemon, but now that it has Bulk Up, that's going to really give it a whole new dimension. It's going to be a lot scarier to go against this Pokemon. And obviously, as you're gaining, defense, Body Press is never a bad idea to throw on the set. Not something you need to do, but something that definitely can work in a few different situations. But the main Pokemon that we did want to highlight is Slowbro. This Pokemon with Body Press is incredible. You're going to see it on so many different Slowbro sets, as Slowbro is a Pokemon with Regenerator, and you see defensive variants all over the place. Just having this as another coverage move is going to be really nice. You're going to be able to hit, especially defensive Pokemon a lot harder. Chansey and Blissey are two Pokemon that immediately come to mind. Body Press is going to at least allow you to dent them a lot harder, which is really solid. But not only that, but Slowbro also gains access to Nasty Plot. This is an incredible setup move for Slowbro. You're going to be able to really, really boost your special attack, and Trick Room offensive sets are going to be even scarier. It's something you saw every once in a while with Slowbro, but it was a little bit more niche, but I think with Nasty Plot getting that +2 immediately, it has a really solid move pool. That's going to make this Mon even scarier, and on top of all of that, it gets access to stored power. Now you can just try to, raise your special attack with Nasty Plot. Maybe you're going for Calm Mind to get the special attack and special defense, get all of the boosts all over the place. Stab stored power is going to do a ton of damage, and one thing me and Sam have been talking about is if we ever do get Megas back and we get Mega Slowbro one more time, stored power sets are going to cause so many nightmares for so many people. That thing was a problem to deal with. It had so many sets that were basically set up all the way up on defense, special defense with, iron defense, amnesia, all of that incredibly annoying stuff. Shell armor you can't crit through, but now it has stored power instead of Scald to obliterate opponents.
Moving on from the Body Press Pokemon to Regigigas. This is a legendary, which is kind of weird to be one of the overlooked Pokemon on this list, but Regigigas is here for a good reason, and that is because of its awful slow start ability. Despite its amazing stats, it really can't do very much for the first 5 turns of battle, which is pretty terrible, but now it has a lot of things that help it. It can finally learn Protect, which is crazy because that's basically a move that pretty much any Pokemon that can learn TMs can learn, and Regigigas could not. So now it can learn Protect, and that will be invaluable for stalling out its slow start turns. Basically, you can go Protect, attack, and then your slow start has worn off after another Protect. So you only need to attack twice. If you put Protect on that set, it's amazing. It also now learns Rest, another move that pretty much all other Pokemon get, and that's fantastic for keeping this thing healthy. You could run Rest Talk set and just wear away your initial turns of slow start. Once that's worn off and hopefully your rest is worn off, you can just go ham on the opponent. And it does also get Body Slam, which is a really nice offensive move for this Pokemon, especially again for wearing down those slow start turns. If you can get some paralysis on your opponent, it might mean that they won't be able to attack you while you're trying to stall out those turns. All really fantastic moves for Regigigas. It does also get some other coverage. It gets Darkest Lariat and Heat Crash now, which are kind of interesting moves. And also Body Press is another good one for Regigigas because its defense stat isn't halved in its slow start turns. So you can put Body Press, invest in its defense, and you don't have to worry about wearing down those turns because Body Press will do the same amount of damage before and after. So all in all, this legendary Pokemon is probably going to have a field day, especially considering that Galarian Wheezing is also a thing now, so he can have fun with Galarian Wheezing, but he can do all right on himself as well because of that Protect.
The next Pokemon we're going to talk about has never really been an incredible competitive Pokemon, but it's always had a big spot in my heart, and that is Dunsparce. And this is a Pokemon that has one stat that stands out with the 100 HP stat, but it is a really frustrating Pokemon to go against. Serene Grace is very, very annoying, especially when it is able to pair Glare with Headbutt, but it also has, Stealth Rocks, Roost for access to immediate recovery, and Coil, which is a really, really good setup move. But now it's going to have access to Amnesia and Baton Pass. Both of those are absolutely going to turn this Pokemon into a nightmare and something you can't overlook. Glare is a fantastic move on pretty much any single Pokemon. You're able to just spread paralysis on pretty much anything. Being able to, stall them down with Headbutt is really nice. It's going to have really good HP, so it will be able to be bulky on the defensive side, the special defensive side, whatever you really want to invest in, you should be able to take some decent hits, roost up, and once you start setting up with Coil or Amnesia, you're really going to get some big boosts, and especially with Coil, being able to send that over to different Pokemon to potentially sweep your opponent is going to be devastating for opposing teams. Coil is a really, really cool, unique setup move. Not a ton of Pokemon get it. Not a ton of things can Baton Pass it, and Dunsparce is a Pokemon that should be able to Baton Pass with relative ease. So I know it's not something you see often, but I do think after home, this is something that you don't have to fear, but you have to be somewhat ready for in a few different situations because it could definitely surprise you.
So the last Pokemon today is potentially my favorite. We've not done this in any particular order, and it's not necessarily going to be the best, but I am really excited about this buff. It's going to be Luxray, and it gets some more coverage moves. So it gets Play Rough and Psychic Fangs, both great physical moves for it to get. It can hit a few more things for super effective damage, which is great, but really the main selling point for Luxray after these new attacks were found is definitely going to be agility. So agility will double Luxray's speed. Its speed is middling and is probably the thing that is holding it back the most, because after this one agility, it will outspeed pretty much everything. It already has the amazing Guts ability, and if you pair that up with a Flame Orb, Luxray hits so hard. It's got some great coverage moves already. I mean, with Wild Charge and Facade, you don't need too much more, maybe Superpower on that set. It would have been nice to see Close Combat here because that would have completed and rounded out the set amazingly. Just get Ice Fang too. All really good moves for it to run. With that Guts boosted attack stat, it's got an amazing attack stat. With Guts boosted, it'll hit so hard. So all you need to do is set up an agility, and then you're in a really good position to sweep your opponent. And that would be amazing. I would love to see Luxray being able to turn into a sweeper. That would be so cool to see. I'm really excited for this Luxray set, and I can't wait to sweep people with an agility Luxray. That sounds so fun to do. So that will round off our list for today. But now that we've counted these down, go over to John's channel because we've looked at some of the really powerful Pokemon already. Tons of legends, tons of other just broken Pokemon to see what fun new toys they've got, because that's going to be game-changing too. There are some really, really stupidly powerful things on there, so check that out. All that's left to be said is I've been Foo, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.